Fog pooled around my boots like smoke as I walked the narrow trail, the last light of the day bleeding away into gray. My breath came out in short white bursts, my heart thudding a little too loudly in the stillness. Not even the wind moved. Just silence, thick and pressing, the kind that makes your ears ache. I shouldn't have been out here this late, but I wasn't exactly trying to make good decisions. Every step crunched over damp leaves and brittle pine needles. Trees loomed, like ghosts, their limbs draped in mist. I didn't bring a flashlight. I didn't want one. There was something honest about the dark. Something punishing. That's when I saw it. Movement. Fast and low. I stopped cold, legs stiffening. Out of the fog stepped a German shepherd, large and lean, limping. Her fur was matted down on one side, dark with blood. But her eyes, they locked onto mine, not wild, not feral, just focused. Then I saw what was in her mouth. A puppy. Tiny. Barely weaned. It whimpered as the shepherd stepped forward, slowly, without threat, and gently placed the little thing at my feet. I stared, breath caught in my throat. The mother looked up at me, her eyes glossy with something that looked too close to emotion. She let out a sound, broken, high, and almost too human, a whimper. Not from pain, from grief. "What the hell?" I whispered. She made the sound again, louder this time, her entire body trembling now. Then stillness. "Are you asking for help?" She didn't move, just watched me, her eyes begging. I haven't walked this trail since last winter, not since we lost him. It was my brother's favorite route, said it helped clear his mind, called it his quiet mile. We used to hike it as kids. He knew. Every bend, every root that jutted out like a trap. He could run it blind, and yet, this is where he died. Search and rescue said he slipped. Fog was heavy that day. He missed a turn, plummeted into a ravine, broke his neck instantly. That's what the report said, but no one saw it. There was no body, just some torn fabric, his boots, and a scarf left behind like breadcrumbs. I didn't believe it then. I don't now. That's why I came back. Not to grieve, not to heal. I came to punish myself. I came to understand, Buddy, my golden retriever, used to love this trail too. But he's old now. Deaf in one ear, hips stiff. These hills are too rough for him. So I left him home today, and I think maybe that was a mistake. He might have barked at what was coming. I've spent months alone with the silence. It's not just quiet. It's a thing that crawls into your brain, rearranges your thoughts. You start muttering out loud just to feel something. And yet, the moment I saw that dog, I stopped talking to myself because for the first time in months, something was talking back. I crouched slowly, keeping my eyes on the German shepherd. She didn't flinch. She didn't growl. She just sat, her side still bleeding, and watched me like I was the only hope left in her world. The puppy twitched. Its chest was rising and falling too fast. Eyes unfocused, tiny tongue lolling out. I reached out carefully, palms up, and lifted it into my arms. Its fur was sticky with something thick and dark. Not red. Not blood. Tar? Grease? It reeked of chemicals like burnt rubber or melted plastic. I wiped my hand on my pants and gagged. The shepherd stepped forward. My whole body tensed, but she didn't attack. She just licked my wrist once, slow, deliberate, and then, without warning, turned and ran back into the fog. "Wait," I called. "Come back." But she was already gone. I looked down at the puppy, who let out a soft, scratchy bark and tugged, weakly at my sleeve with its tiny teeth. "You want me to follow her?" I asked, eyebrows pulling tight. Another bark, more insistent. "You've got to be kidding me." But I didn't walk back to the car. I followed. Branches tore at my jacket. As I stepped off the trail deeper into the underbrush, the fog thickened, sucking away sound and shape. I could barely see a few feet ahead. Still, the puppy kept alert in my arms, occasionally letting out a growl or shifting its weight like it was guiding me. Then something caught on a root under my foot. I bent down and yanked it free, a torn piece of fabric stained with mud, snagged deep in a bush. I rubbed it between my fingers, heart slowing as I realized it wasn't just random debris. I flipped it over. There, nearly faded from age and grime, was a symbol stitched into the corner. A logo. My brother's backpack. I staggered back, legs shaking. I knew that logo. I bought him that patch on his 23rd birthday. A stupid in-joke between us. A cartoon wolf howling at a pixelated moon. The backpack was never recovered. The search team combed every ravine and ledge. Nothing. Until now. I stared at it like it might vanish. Behind me, a rustle, a loud crack, like a branch snapping clean in half. I spun around, eyes darting through the trees. "Hello?" I called, voice breaking. "Is someone there?" No answer. The air felt heavier now, like the fog had grown hands and was pushing against my chest. I turned slowly, every muscle stiff. My boots scraped across the earth. The puppy in my jacket squirmed violently, then let out a whimper unlike any sound I'd heard before, sharp, low, almost fearful. I turned again. Nothing. Still nothing. But now the feeling was crawling all over me, that primal certainty. We weren't alone out here. Something was watching us. The path she took was narrow and uneven, snaking between trees twisted like old bones. Fog hung thicker now, almost liquid, clinging to my skin and soaking through my clothes. My flashlight flickered as I stepped off the trail, deeper into what felt like another world, one not meant for people. The puppy shifted in my arms, letting out soft, rapid pants. I could feel its heart hammering through its tiny chest. I should have turned back. I should have run to my car, called someone, anyone. But instead I kept walking, because something in me needed to know. The deeper I went, the quieter everything became. Even the forest noises, crickets, rustling leaves, distant owls, fell away. In their place, I began to hear something else. Not quite sounds, more like whispers. Low and slithering, brushing the edge of hearing. I spun around more than once, flashlight darting over trees and brambles, but nothing was there. Just fog. Just the silent weight of the mountain pressing in. Then I saw it. The collapsed wooden bridge. Old and splintered, one side dipped into the ravine below like a snapped bone. I approached slowly, careful not to disturb the unstable planks. Below, through the tangle of fallen wood and rock, was something else. A cave. A jagged opening, partially obscured by branches and shadow. The kind of place you'd never notice unless you were looking for it, or unless something wanted you to find it. I raised the flashlight, and there she was, the German Shepherd. She stood beside the mouth of the cave like a sentry, one paw lifted slightly, her head tilted just enough to catch my eye. Her wound still leaked, but she didn't whimper anymore. She was silent now, focused, waiting. I took a breath. Then I stepped down into the dark. The air inside was different, denser. It carried the sharp bite of mold, stone, and something else. Something animal. The first thing I saw was a rusted lantern hanging from a nail on the wall. I lit it with the last match in my pocket. The glow was weak but steadier than my flashlight, which finally blinked out as if giving up. The cave opened wider the farther I walked. Scattered across the dirt floor were bones, small ones. Too clean to have been. They're long. Some still held tufts of fur. I tried not to look closely. Then I saw it. Tucked into a corner, half wrapped in a crumpled flannel shirt, was a journal. I pulled it free and brushed off the dirt. The cover was torn, the edges warped from damp. My hands trembled as I opened it. The first few pages were stained but legible. Day 1. Fell. Hit my leg, can't climb out, staying near the cave for warmth. I flipped further, breath tightening. Day 4. I'm trapped, but I'm not alone. The howls are getting louder. I think they're not animals. I froze. I knew the handwriting. It was his. My brother's. Tears blurred the ink as I kept reading, page after page. His descent from confusion into fear, from fear into something else. He spoke of shadows that moved, shapes that watched him, of the German shepherd who showed up one night and never left. The last page wasn't writing. It was a sketch of her. The dog, right down to the scar across her brow. My knees gave out, and I sat on the cold stone floor, clutching the journal like it could bring him back. The puppy whined and wiggled out of my arms, padding toward the cave wall. It pawed at a symbol, carved into the stone, a circle of eyes all pointed inward. In the center, a paw print. I reached out and traced it with my finger. The moment I touched it, my flashlight died completely. Total darkness. And then, a growl. Low. Deep. Not from the shepherd. Not from the puppy. Something else. Something deeper. In the cave. Something that didn't sound like any dog I'd ever heard. I sat there for a long time. Paralyzed. The lantern flickered, throwing shadows that danced across the rock walls. I kept thinking about the last message my brother ever sent me. Come on, man. We need this. We'd been planning to hike together that weekend. He said he was in a bad headspace, needed to talk. I told him I was busy. I was lying. I just didn't want to deal with his mood. So I ghosted him, and now, he was a ghost. This wasn't just guilt anymore. It was truth. Tangible. Real. Maybe I could still find answers. Maybe this dog, his dog, was the key. The shepherd curled up beside me, head resting against my knee. A soft huff escaped her mouth, more comfort than warning. The puppy tugged at my bootlace, gently but insistently, like a child pulling a sleeve. It wanted me to keep going. God help me, I did. The cave sloped downward, narrowing as I moved. The air grew colder. My breath fogged again. Each step echoed louder than the last. Then, a scream. Human, distant, muffled, but real. I stopped dead, heart pounding. Hello? I shouted, voice cracking. Hey, who's there? No reply. The puppy barked, high-pitched and frantic. It ran forward into the shadows ahead, yipping like mad. The shepherd stood and growled, low and steady, then bolted after the pup, her injured leg dragging but unrelenting. I took off after them. The cave floor dipped suddenly, and I tripped over, something buried beneath the dirt. My hands caught myself just in time, on something soft and cold. I looked down, fingers trembling as they brushed away loose soil. And then I saw it. A shoe. Worn, cracked and coated in dust, but unmistakable. My brother's shoe. The cave widened into a vast underground chamber, and for a moment I forgot how to breathe. It wasn't natural. It looked built, as if something or someone had carved it with intent. Crumbling stone pillars reached up into darkness, half devoured by moss and time. Along the walls, ancient symbols had been etched or burned into the rock. The air tasted metallic, old blood and ash. Bones were everywhere, not just scattered, arranged, circles, spirals, lines that led toward the center of the room. Some were small, animal. Others were unmistakably human, but it was the photos that froze me. Pinned along the stone with rusted nails, tucked into cracks, scattered on the floor, images of missing people, dozens of them, faded posters, yearbook snapshots, camping selfies, and there, centered, as if framed with care, my brother's photo, the one from his old college ID. I hadn't seen it since. Mom boxed his things. My hands began to shake. The German shepherd padded ahead, careful, deliberate, She stopped at a mound of stones stacked at the far end of the chamber. Then, without hesitation, she began to dig. I knelt beside her, helping move the rocks. My fingers scraped over sharp edges and clumped dirt. Eventually, we uncovered something. Wrapped in old, rotting clothes. A body, thin, decayed, jaw gaping in a final, silent scream. But it wasn't him. The shepherd looked at me, then gently nosed at the corpse's hand. Clutched tightly within its curled fingers was something black, half buried in mud and fabric. A phone. His phone. I snatched it up, cradling it in both hands. The screen was dead, but it wasn't cracked. I fumbled with my backpack, pulling out my power bank and cable. "Please," I begged silently. "Please work." The screen blinked to life. I scrolled past the lock screen, he never said a code, and found a single video file saved on the desktop, time-stamped the day he vanished. I tapped play. The screen shook wildly as he moved, panting hard. His face filled the frame, sweat slicking his brow. Blood smeared across one cheek. He whispered into the camera. "Day 5 or 6. I don't know anymore. My food's gone. The thing. It keeps circling the cave. Looks like a dog sometimes. Sometimes it's something else. I don't know how it keeps changing, but it knows me. It talks, but not out loud. It talks in my head." He turned the camera, revealing the cave walls, the same symbols I'd seen. Then back to his face, eyes wide with something close to madness. "If someone finds this, don't listen to it. It can trick you. Pretend to be someone you know." A sudden noise cut him off. That growl again. The one I'd heard earlier. He turned quickly. The camera tilted. His eyes locked on something behind the lens. "Oh God, it's here!" Then, darkness. The video ended. The puppy yelped beside me, crawling backward until it bumped into my foot. The shepherd sat still, eyes focused on the far wall. Then, she threw back her head and let out a long, mournful howl. As if on cue, all the lanterns scattered across the chamber suddenly flickered to life, one by one. A dull, flickering glow swallowed the shadows, only to reveal new ones moving, across the stone. They weren't ours. Figures, dozens, danced along the walls. Some walked on 2 legs, others did not. I backed up slowly, clutching the phone like it could protect me. "No," I whispered. "No, no, no, this isn't real." But it was. The cave, the bones, the video, all of it was real. I collapsed, to my knees in front of the shepherd, the phone slipping from my fingers. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I should have been there. I should have come with him." The weight of my guilt finally broke loose. It rushed through my chest, filled my lungs until I could barely breathe. The shepherd walked up slowly and nudged the phone toward me with her nose. Her eyes caught the flickering light, and for a single instant, I swore I saw something human behind them, not just awareness, recognition. A memory hit me, not mine, but as vivid as if I'd lived it. My brother, sitting beside a small fire, laughing, softly, his hand stroking the shepherd's fur, he whispered something. A name. "Guard him." I gasped. The air knocked from my lungs. The puppy nestled against my leg, its panting calmed, like it could finally rest. I looked into the shepherd's eyes. "You were with him," I whispered. "Weren't you?" She blinked slowly, then rested her head against my chest. Until the end. The cave shifted again. The air changed, thicker, charged, like the moment before lightning strikes. I stood slowly, the phone in one hand, the puppy cradled in the other, and finally, I asked aloud, "Where is he?" The shepherd turned. She walked to the edge of the chamber where a narrow tunnel yawned open, hidden behind a veil of tattered cloth and vines. I hadn't seen it before. She glanced back once, then stepped inside. I followed. The tunnel was darker than the cave. The lanterns, no. Longer reaching this far. My footfalls echoed too loudly, and the deeper I went, the more the air felt wrong. Then I heard it. My brother's voice. Faint. Echoing. Disbelieving. You're not supposed to be here. I froze. Jason? I whispered, turning in a slow circle. Jason, is that you? The ground beneath me trembled, just enough to knock loose pebbles from the walls. I gripped the puppy tighter and stepped forward, and then something stepped out from the shadows, tall, familiar, wearing hiking boots, a red flannel shirt, and my brother's face. But it wasn't him. The eyes were wrong. Too dark, too knowing. Like the shadows had learned to wear a mask, and it smiled. The figure stood still, just beyond the flickering torchlight. It wore my brother's face, down to the faint scar near his temple, the uneven scruff on his jaw. But the eyes were wrong. They shimmered too darkly, pools of ink instead of the warm brown I remembered. When it smiled, its teeth were just a little too sharp. Jason? I whispered. The German shepherd stepped in front of me, growling low, her entire body tense. Her ears pinned back, hackles up. Protective. The thing tilted, its head. He said you'd come. The voice was his. Same cadence, same softness. But the words, they weren't right. It was like hearing a song played just slightly out of tune. He begged, it said, stepping forward. Begged to trade his life. A guardian in his place. To keep others safe. We accepted. I didn't understand at first. Trade? The thing didn't answer. But the shepherd looked back at me. And in her eyes, I saw him. Not just memory. Not just recognition. Sacrifice. Itai. Hit me. The cave, the symbols, the ritual of bones and whispers. This wasn't just a burial ground. It was a bargain, a prison, a pact. Someone had to stay. Someone always had to guard the gate. The creature lunged. I barely moved in time. Its form shifted. Mid-leap, longer limbs, snarling mouth, a blur of shadow and bone. The shepherd intercepted it, teeth clashing with darkness, her growl echoing through the chamber. Then the puppy, the little mutt, threw itself between us. Light shimmered off its fur, faint but real. Not firelight, something else. It glowed. The yai. Thing hesitated. I grabbed the nearest torch from the wall and swung hard. Flame met shadow. There was a shriek, not human, not animal. The illusion faltered. The figure's face twisted, Jason's features melting away into something shapeless and ancient. It staggered back, snarling. One day, it hissed, half-formed, the mountain will want you. And it vanished into the dark. The shepherd didn't wait. She limped toward a narrow passage that opened behind the stones. I followed her in silence, heart pounding, the puppy tucked beneath one arm. We emerged into a small, silent chamber, and there, at the center, was Jason, his real body, peaceful, untouched by decay. He lay on a raised stone slab, hands folded across, his chest cradling the pendant I gave him when we were kids, a compass charm. It had been a dumb birthday gift. He wore it every day. Around him were things, memories. A photo of our family at the lake, a pocket knife, a faded letter, a friendship. Bracelet from camp. He had died here, but he hadn't been alone. I fell to my knees. The sob broke free before I could stop it. All the guilt, all the years of silence and shame, they spilled out, raw and ugly. The shepherd stepped up beside him, rested her head gently on his chest. Then she lay down, and without a sound, without pain, she died, like her duty was complete. I reached out, stroking her fur one last time. Thank you, I whispered, for everything. The puppy crawled from my arms, nuzzled the shepherd's nose, then padded back to me. He didn't bark, didn't whimper. He simply climbed into my open backpack and curled up tight. I buried them together, high on a ridge, where the trees bowed low and the wind carried nothing but peace. I didn't say much, just a few words I remembered from when we were kids, things Jason used to say before every hike. Keep your eyes open, and if you get lost, follow the dog. I went home. Different. Buddy, the old mutt who never liked other dogs, welcomed the puppy like a brother. No growling, no barking, just an understanding. I mailed the phone and the journal to a journalist anonymously. Let them figure out what to do with it. I told no one what really happened, but every night since I hear the wind whistle across my windows the way it did in the cave. Thin, high, full of whispers. Sometimes the puppy growls at dark corners. Sometimes... do too. One morning, I found the puppy sitting by the front door, completely still. Staring out at the mountain far in the distance, its peak hidden behind cloud and mist. He didn't move when I approached. "You miss her, don't you?" I said, kneeling beside him. He looked up at me, and in his eyes, just for a second, I saw her. That same flicker of humanity, that knowing calm, that soul. "If she passed something into you," I said softly, placing a hand on his head, "I'll protect it now." The puppy barked once, not playful, not excited, just solemn. Behind us, the wind rose, a low howl spiraling through the trees, and inside it, very faintly, a whisper, "Thank you."